Okay, so I wanted to give this quick introduction, and mostly just to test out some of my equipment here, just because I've got no idea what I'm doing. Um, but I've been having some thoughts the last couple of months, and a lot of these have sort of stemmed into why I've sort of made this move and why I'm over in Edinburgh now. But just wanted to sort of kick this off as a bit of an introduction. As everyone, well, not everyone, people that are back home, I've kind of made the jump, and I've just moved over to Edinburgh, um, predominantly sort of treating it as a bit of a career break and as an opportunity to reset, spend a couple of months focusing on some mental and physical health. Just having a bit more time to sort of shift some of my focus away from work and actually focus on something else and work on other aspects of my life, trying to sort of find out who I am, outside of just a 9 to 5 or a career, and try to find some other things that I enjoy doing. So looking at sort of doing that, and thought, look, I mean, love my friends back home. I love Melbourne. I love Australia. I love everyone back there. I love my family. But it's a bit of a change. I can go over here and test out a few things, and moved over to Vietnam and had a great time over there, and lived in a different culture, and kind of figured, why not give it a shot in somewhere that's maybe a bit more easier going than what might be in a developing nation in Southeast Asia. So came over to Edinburgh. We've now been here. I've been here since Wednesday. So I got in Wednesday morning, and generally I think off to a good start. I sort of knew it was going to be a bit challenging at the beginning, sort of trying to find a place to live, find people to hang out with, set into a routine, and fundamentally try to get used to being alone, because I think a lot of that's actually probably the hardest part I have probably back home is, I've got a great group of friends, but when I'm alone I get a bit agitated and trying to get more familiar. So over the couple of days that I've been here, it's been good to spend some time alone. I've been reading a lot more. I've been going to museums and sitting in parks and wandering around exploring a new city, and I guess that's sort of adjusting into the new life. And I sort of know that in probably a couple of weeks, if I'm honest, sitting around and not hanging out with people might not be the best for me, and I might need to look into getting a job. But essentially, for the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, I've got a bit of time, and this is probably the purpose of why I'm sort of recording this part, because I wanted to try to give myself a bit of structure and maybe a bit of people back home would be familiar. I've said the term side quests in the past, and around sort of stuff that I'd maybe would not normally be a key focus, but I like keeping myself busy with some of these little hobbies and stuff that kind of keep me going. So for the next couple of months, I've sort of tried to, well, I say a couple of months, but it might be a bit longer than that. There's probably two things that I want to work on that fall or think about or try to give myself little activities around that sort of fall outside of day-to-day living or anything. And they're not necessarily things like bucket list stuff, which I think might be something that happens later in my life, but it's sort of things that I've just been thinking about, particularly the last couple of days. So I guess the first one, and for those who are sort of, well, I presume everyone knows me if I'm recording this video, but who knows where I'll put this up eventually. But my name's Callum Maxwell, Callum Gordon Maxwell for that matter. I've grown up in Australia. I lived in Melbourne. My grandfather, John Gordon Maxwell, he emigrated to Australia in the 40s. Met my grandmother over there. They lived in Melbourne. They had 5 kids. My dad was the third of the 5. My dad had an older sister, older brother, and then 2 younger brothers. And then my dad and my mum had 4 kids of their own. So I've got an older sister than me, younger sister than a younger brother, and I'm sure I'll talk about them another time. But I've sort of recently not recently, always had a degree of interest of what the history of the Maxwell family is and what the history of the Maxwell clan is. What was life like for my grandfather back in the 40s in southwest Scotland, in Dumfries, with his siblings, and why did he make the decision to come out to Australia. And I've been interested in what it means, of what sort of the aspects of being part of the Maxwell clan is. So me and my brother, we actually have matching tattoos now, which I've got mine here, which I can sort of lift up and see, which is just the stag. Our Maxwell clan coat of arms is a stag in a wreath with the words Reveresco underneath them. And I've just bought this morning a little Maxwell clan tartan scarf thing, which is pretty cheap, but at least it sort of hands up and it shows up sort of the history that we have there. But it's sort of been a part that it would be interesting to know kind of what that further history is, if we go back. So I'll sort of elaborate a bit more that I think on future videos. I sort of get a bit better at this, but one of the parts that I found from my simple reading, and I'm nowhere near an expert yet, this is going to be the next sort of couple of months that I start trying to look into what this all means, but the recent reading I've done sort of the Maxwell clan is that we're a term called, I think it's Amigarus, which is essentially means we currently don't have a chief. Now, I think you can probably work out where this is going if you know me well enough, but one of the things I sort of want to research into in the next couple of months, how would one become a chief of a clan, and is it possible for me to essentially claim that I could be the chief of the Maxwell clan? Now, I have no idea how this works. That's all part of the fun of this next couple of months, is doing that investigation into, well, how does this work? Like, how do I prove that I have a descendancy or a hereditary back to one of the previous Maxwell clan chiefs? Or I'm not sure. So I'm going to do some research around that to try to work out the process and what that needs to be. Could be a bit of rallying the banners and getting all the other Maxwells aligned. So that will be quite a fun challenge to try to see if there's any competing claims, but we'll work through that as we go through it. Maxwell's from Dumfries, which is down Dumfries and Galloway, so I'll make a trip down there and hopefully add some content around that as well. Well, I say hopefully, but if I don't, I feel like I'm not doing this properly, which might be another flaw. And we'll work through that as we sort of do it. Now, the other part of this sort of next couple of months, again, I keep saying months, but it could be years, who knows what I'm talking about. Over the last probably 8 months, 9 months, I've been, I've sort of started being, working out a bit more, running a bit more, trying to put a bit more focus on physical health. And, with my PT I've been working with in Melbourne, and they've been great. Shout out to Beyond Best and Benny and Reese back down there. They keep sort of asking, what do I want to achieve out of working out? And it kind of starts off by going, oh, look, I just want to get fitter. I want to lose weight. And I don't know what that means. I've never really been a fitness person, and then that was sort of always where I started. But as I sort of started dropping weight and starting to realize I can lift heavier weights and sort of start going down that path, I sort of go going, well, maybe my next step is to try to hit targets on squatting or bench press or whatever it needs to be. So I sort of started putting in some of those sort of targets that we'd work towards to do that. But even to me, that doesn't give me a lot of satisfaction. It doesn't make me see like, okay, I can squat 100 kilos. Great. Okay, you just keep doing more. I think I need kind of like a bit of a finite milestone that I can hit that isn't necessarily just purely getting to a number that can kind of keep moving up and up, sort of an event. So one of the things that I then started thinking of, tying back into this idea of the clans and Maxwells and all of that, and another reason I've gotten coming to Scotland, is starting to look into the idea of how I can compete in the Highland Games, or any of the Highland Games, I guess you'd say. Now, I don't know what event that means. I don't know if it's caber tossing. I don't know if it's doing Atlas stones. I don't even know what it is. I don't even know how you train properly for this. But I think that's sort of one of these other side quests I'm starting to look into, is going, well, how do I work out in a certain level and a certain target that by maybe it's June next year, I'll be in a position that I can compete in the Highland Games. Again, no idea how that process works. It'll be something that I imagine I uncover as I move along on the Maxwell journey, the Chief journey, the Discovering Scotland journey, the Talking to People journey, the Making Friends journey, that will essentially lead me into this final position. But I can see it. Look, if we aim for sort of June, July next year, and after what's that, a bit over a year of working out and muscle development, is that enough? Who knows? I feel like I'm going to need to actually go and talk to someone who knows how to do this. So that's a quick intro. I say quick, it's probably going to go for 10 minutes. I don't know how to edit anything. Hopefully someone else can come and do that, or I don't know, we'll work it out one step at a time. But that's essentially where we're at for the moment. Thanks, everyone.